Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to Lesson 7 in the series on Genesis, titled The Covenant with Abraham, ready for teaching on May 14, and I'm Percy Harrold. Friday, May 13. Abraham's patient and tenacious plea with God on behalf of the people of Sodom that we read about yesterday in Genesis 18:22-33 should encourage us to pray for the wicked, even though they appear to be in a hopeless condition of sin. Furthermore, God's attentive response to Abraham's insistence and his willingness to forgive for the sake of only 10 righteous men is a revolutionary concept, as pointed out by 𝐃𝐎𝐒 in the article The Remnant, the history and theology of the remnant idea from Genesis to Isaiah, the 3rd edition, published in 1980, pages 150 and 151. In the extremely revolutionary manner, the old collective thinking which brought the guiltless member of the guilty association under punishment has been transposed into something new. The presence of a remnant of righteous people could have a preserving function for the whole. For the sake of the righteous remnant, Yahweh would in his righteousness, tzedakah, Tsedaqah, forgive the wicked city. This notion is widely expanded in the prophetic utterances of the servant of Yahweh who works salvation for many. End of quote. And then Ellen White writes in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 140, all around us are souls going down to ruin as hopeless, as terrible as that which befell Sodom. Every day the probation of some is closing. Every hour some are passing beyond the reach of mercy. And where are the voices of warning and entreaty to bid the sinner flee from this fearful doom? Where are the hands stretched out to draw him back from death? Where are those who, with humility and persevering faith, are pleading with God for him? The spirit of Abraham was the spirit of Christ. The Son of God is himself the great intercessor in the sinner's behalf. He who has paid the price for its redemption knows the worth of the human soul. And that brings us to our 3 discussion questions for this week. 1. Only the rainbow and circumcision are called sign of the covenant. What are the common points and the differences between the 2 covenants? 3. Though called of God, and though often used in the New Testament as the example of what it means to live by faith, Abraham at times faltered. What lessons should we learn and not learn from his example? 3. Some people argue against the idea that God will punish the lost, saying that this act would be against God's love. How do we, as those who believe that, yes, God will punish the lost, respond to the argument that he doesn't? Inside Story. Our mission story this week is titled A Teacher's Prayer, and it's by Andrew McChesney. A school friend told Selina that she should worship Jesus. "You need to go to church because Jesus is coming, and when he comes, he will take his own," she said. The friend also said only 2 churches exist in the world, the Seventh-day Adventist Church and another church. Selina, whose parents were not particularly religious, chose the other church because it had a larger building in her village in northern Botswana. After some time, a relative, a boy around her age, invited Selina to the Adventist church. Selina's friends at the other church cautioned her against going. "Don't go to that church," said one. "You won't come back to your own church," said another. "Why should I leave my church?" Selina asked. On Sabbath morning, Selina walked with the boy to church. The worship service had begun when they arrived. It was so different to Selina. The preacher talked to God like he was talking to a friend. The handshakes after the worship service surprised her. It was as if the church members had been expecting her. Learning that the preacher would conduct a series of sermons, she came back for what turned out to be an evangelistic series. She listened with amazement as the preacher used slides to show that the beasts of Daniel 7 represented world kingdoms up through Jesus' second coming. After the meetings ended, she never returned to her former church. She was baptized and joined the Adventist Church. Selina O'Reilly Nakawe grew up and became a schoolteacher. More than anything, she wanted to teach children about Jesus at an Adventist school. But there was no Adventist school, so she taught at government schools for 34 years. After retiring, she prayed earnestly about how to be a good witness for God, and she led several evangelistic efforts that resulted in a number of baptisms. But she couldn't forget her desire to teach at an Adventist school. One day, her husband saw a newspaper advertisement seeking teachers for a new Adventist school in Francistown. Selina applied and was accepted at Eastern Gate Primary School, which was constructed with a 13th Sabbath offering in 2015. God had answered her prayers. The daily prayer of all the teachers is for the kids to see God's character in us, Selina said. And there's a lovely photograph and a lovely smile here with Selina. This mission story illustrates the following components of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's I Will Go strategic plan. Mission objective number 4, to strengthen Seventh-day Adventist institutions in upholding freedom, holistic health, and hope through Jesus, and restoring in people the image of God. And spiritual growth objective number 6, to increase accession, retention, reclamation, and participation of children, youth, and young adults. And you can read more about that at iwillgo2020.org. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.